We heard about a year and a half ago about Volkswagen and all their bad publicity. There was a tragedy a few months ago at Dreamworld. I guess in your world, probably the worst thing that could happen from a reputational risk point of view is having anybody cast aspersions on you for where your money is going or what your money is actually being used for. You had a little bit of grief around that a few months ago. Tell us about that and how you dealt with it.
Yeah, so it was a while ago now. We had an article come out, and it was a pretty disappointing day. We built this dream from the ground up, and the premise of the article, I think it was about 3 years ago that came out. It said the headline said 30% of Thankyou's profits funds proselytization. Now, maybe for young upstarts, we weren't familiar with that word. I had to Google it. We're doing what? Proselytization. And then we got it. And you dig down into this article, and it was saying that 30% of our funds had gone to a group called Samaritan's Purse, which is from my perspective, a great charity that does great work. Now, they have their aid and development arm. They also have a faith-based Christian arm. And the premise of the article was, well, how do you know it's not going, your money for Wells isn't going into the faith side of things, and hence the big title. And I remember sitting down with that particular reporter, or the two of them, and I didn't take our PR agency. I kind of live on this crazy thinking that if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to hide. And it led to a 2-hour kind of barrage of questions. And I think for me, I kind of said, yeah, but you have to understand that 25 of the 25 largest aid organizations in our country that work globally, 20 of them have a faith affiliation. It's just the way the market is. Now, we work with religious and non-religious organizations. We do not discriminate. So we work across the board. Mm-hmm. And each of our partners adhere to our code of conduct. In fact, if Samaritan's Purse had done what the article proposed, if they'd actually broken the rules of crossing the funds between the two arms, they would lose their charitable status in Australia, and that would have a flow-on effect to their global organization that's been around 40 years. Like, yes, people do make mistakes, but what was being proposed was at a huge level. And what it did is it cast a shadow over Thankyou. It was one article. There was no other articles. It was some could say a storm in a teacup. There was no substance to the story. There was no follow-on, multiple articles, and it turns out this happened and that happened. No, it was just a little claim, but it did cast a pretty big shadow on the organization. And the background with Samaritan's Purse is when all the big charities said no to Thankyou. No, because I think at the time they thought we were trying to use their brand to sell a product. Well, no, we're just trying to give you money to help people. But that's okay. We've grown up now, and everyone's knocking on Thankyou's door for funding, and we're okay with that. But Samaritan's Purse were small enough to be able to receive small amounts of fund and do really good reporting. So we were comfortable with them and their code of conduct, and we stuck to our guns. That to date we are comfortable that nothing untoward has happened. Moving forward, though, we had to make some shifts, which I found personally hard.
Was that the first time in the life of your organisation that you sort of had to move a little bit into what I call scandal handle mode?
Yeah, it was. And in 9 years now, it's the only thing that's come up. You get a few people on Facebook saying crazy stuff, but it was the first thing that was in that kind of public forum in a big way. And the article got shared a lot of shares. Bad news travels quicker than good news. And I think since then, in fact, I read the other day, I wrote a response to it. And since that day, we've had something like 600 or 700 media features, positive. So phenomenal. Even probably now 3 from that same people that published the first one that are positive. But it's often still referred back to that one because it is that one moment we had. But my response, I wrote at the end a whole bunch of stuff, but at the very bottom it said this line about So we're like, hey guys, the good news is we've raised, I think it was $300,000 or 370. I'd have to check. But, and together we can take this movement forward. Now that's 3 years ago. And we were just 370 grand. Now it's at 5.5 million. And I kind of go, at the time, that issue was our biggest thing. But my dad always said to me, he said, if a person of integrity expects to be believed, and when they're not, they let time prove them right. And that's us at Thankyou. So even today, you may not like something or believe it, or someone on Facebook at the moment is convinced it's all a scam, marketing scam. I said to our team, well, let's just tell him that give us time. Time will prove you or us right. I think there are a lot of people out there doing things wrong, and that's why even I and all of us, we have trust issues, because we're like, oh, it sounds too good to be true. But time changes everything. So, yeah.
Did it hurt you? And were you thrown by the fact that you really believed you could turn up to a meeting in good faith, and I use the words very deliberately, without your PR machine, and just tell people a story, and then find that either because they've seen so much before that they had their own baggage around it, or just because they were looking for a headline and something to, to pull apart the silver lining, that the rug was pulled out from under you like that?
Yeah, I did. I take things really personally. I like to also see the best in people. And I actually felt like turning up was a great thing, because some of the early questions in that first hour were so, like, I'm thinking, man, this article, what the heck are they writing? And I was able to almost work through a lot of different points. And I actually think the article that came out was very different and probably more scaled back than the article that maybe they were planning. And I think turning up really helped that. And that's me hoping that that's what happened. Maybe they'd had an editor commitment and they had to publish something. But, that's me looking at them and saying, look, I'm sure they're just doing their job. I think for me personally, I woke up that day, it was a Sunday, which is the day I go to church, by the way. So it's of all the days for this article to come out, and it was all about faith, and the issue was that this one charity had done that, and there was this sort of link made in the article that I have a personal faith and therefore something's going on. And I think for me that day was hard, because I thought, why would you do this? There's a lot of work that's gone in, and we have a long way to go. We have enough challenges as it is. Funding, big business, and competition, and now we've kind of got to deal with this. And I think it made us stronger. Made me stronger. And Neil is quick to tell me, and still tells me today, you have to understand that what you're leading, you have to be comfortable with people not liking you, even hating you, which is not, like, I don't like that. But it's actually part of this, because not everyone will see things the same way or have that same point of view. So yeah, it hurt, but I think it strengthened me. Okay.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think that's one song, and then if all else fails, it's just Taylor Swift. The haters are gonna hate. Yeah. But I don't think I've ever worked with a leader who didn't have at least one story to tell about something that wounded them personally, and that all the naivete and the optimism, every now and then someone brings us back down to earth with a thud, and we've got to pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off again. One of the big obsessions these days in modern business is resilience and bounce back ability. When you pick yourself up and dust yourself off with the ups and downs that Thankyou has had over those years, and to your credit, you make no secret of that fact. What are you conscious of doing yourself that sort of replenishes and re-energizes you and the other senior leaders, so that it doesn't actually impact the people out there for longer than is necessary, or become worse than is necessary?
Yeah, so I think that the bounce back, in chapter 1 we talk all about, or I share about why, the why behind what you do. And Simon Sinek does the second most seen TED Talk ever, but on why. I start with why. And it's so important as organizations we start with why, but even as individuals, why are we doing what we're doing? And if we haven't drilled down to that deep level of why, it's a risky place to be. Because when the knocks come, there's not a lot else that will bounce you back. And so for me, I've unpacked over the years more and more layers of like, well, why do I do this? There's the cause. I mean, that's what moved me at the start. That in itself was enough. It was just one moment in front of a computer. Actually, no, my why goes deeper, because if you add on all the stories of the individual kids and mums and dads I've met in developing countries, the homes I've stayed in, you add that on, so my why kind of starts to build up layers, and maybe it's a thickness of, when that kind of attack comes, because, you could tell me, you know what, I'm going to drop that product, or I'm going to do this to the business, or I'm about to write this about you. I'd think of when I met Vianney, or, some of the individual stories, and I'd think, well, this is about to be tough for me, but nothing like what he went through collecting water every day for his mum and his grandma, because his dad had left, and he was the young, tough little hero in his family, and he collected water that made them sick every day. And I've done the walk with him, and I had a 1 day window into 15 years of his life. So it's like you can push back on me, but I've got some things in there that'll make me stronger. And that's only the cause. If I kind of dig deeper, I think there's a part of me that has this vision of a different world, something that kind of some would say is a head in the clouds view of what maybe the world could look like if Thankyou reaches where I believe it will. That for me is part of that deeper thing, that you can push back in a moment. But when I get some perspective, often with a mentor or someone, but remember the big picture. It helps bring the perspective. So vision's important. For me, the cause, the why we do this is important. And I think on a personal level, and I say to each of my leadership team, whatever your background, your belief, your faith, in fact, I say it to our whole team, actually anyone who'd even read chapter 1, just, you got to figure out these personal drivers. And for me, I have a faith, and I'm a Christian, I've grown up in church, and for me, it's a daily thing where I've got a set of values and beliefs. And some people say, well, that's not popular, or you should keep that to yourself. Well,
it's not cool.
Yeah, it's not cool. You can't say that. Or, I've shared a story about Jesus in a big corporate event, and someone's like, you can't say that word, it's offensive. I'm like, okay, well, even just from a leadership perspective, he's one of the most disruptive leaders ever. Believe in Christianity or not, he just was. And you read the books, you learn a lot. And I'm a learner. And so for me, this stuff is personal. And I'm okay sharing it, even if people didn't like it or wasn't comfortable. My intention is never to make someone uncomfortable. But at the same time, it is. I want people to get uncomfortable in themselves, to go, well, what's my why then? This guy's out there talking about faith and this and this. You may not agree with it, but then what is your why? Because we all need to find that. I wish that Age article was the only tough moment we've had. We've had so many, and this last week has been tough. The bigger it gets, the bigger it gets. The bigger the issues, the challenges, and so I am, at the moment, daily, just reminding myself of why. So I think that's me in a nutshell, and then you add on great mentors and a team around me of co-founders and a leadership team, and they kind of help almost remind me of the why, or refocus me, or give me a different perspective. I think if I just had those internal motivations alone, maybe it wouldn't be enough.
It's interesting you say that, because I wanted to ask you about that. Were you not a young man of faith, do you think you would have ended up doing all of this?
For me, I'd answer that by saying I don't think I would have. I look at some of the crazy stuff we've done, and I think my faith and my beliefs are so ingrained, I can't separate the two. I don't have an experience of a life where I didn't have it, then I did have it. There are days where I feel like I've lost my faith, and there are days where I feel like, no, I've got it back. But the reality is I can't see how I could have led this, because for me, it's these fundamental principles that are incredibly strong foundational principles that have made me stick to my guns over the years. We had big opportunities in the early days, big, like make money to make more impact.
Investors, shareholders.
Well, investors, shareholders,
Yeah.
that's one end. There's almost another end too where it's unethical opportunities. So as in unethical and behind closed doors, no one will ever know, and everyone else does this. If you do that, we'll give you this. I think to myself, yeah, that just goes against a personal value set I have, and I'm not going to make that decision. We'll miss the opportunity before we cross our values. And I think I'd love to say on my own, I'm just really strong, values led, but I actually think it's that faith for me that's really helped anchor that. And that is, it goes deep. So yeah, look, for me, it's been kind of integral.
Does that mean that the work you're doing with Thankyou, is that your calling?
Yeah, well, I would say yes. For me, I feel like it's a calling. It's more than a job. And I in church growing up, I used to hear about people's calling. So yeah, I think it is. And I think my hope is that every person here feels it's their calling. Now, we don't have a Christian organization. Staff believe a whole bunch of different stuff. Everyone knows my thoughts. Everyone has their own. Cool. But I still think calling's that's a funny word, but it's kind of nice because it's not about a career. It's a calling. It's something deeper. It's a change you want to make. Almost, I end the book talking about it, but a speaker once really impacted me talking about the fingerprint, and never in the history of mankind will anyone have they ever or will they ever have the same fingerprint as you. And he used the word called. He said, we're all called to leave an imprint in the world that no one else can. And I love that thought. So for me, yeah, I definitely feel that. And I wake up kind of energized going, what's my fingerprint? What can I leave?
As I sit here with you and I hear you talking about it, just calling it a career just doesn't seem to do it justice. It really doesn't. What about the future? What does the future hold for you in your role and also for Thankyou?
Well, for me in my role, to use the fingerprint analogy, it's really getting comfortable with my unique fingerprint. Because as we're getting bigger, it's getting more complicated. The reality is right now there is operational challenges when you have 46 products, you have millions of products getting made every day, 10 factories or getting on 11 international suppliers. This thing is so complex. So I'm running day to day and also moving forward. And I was sitting down with George actually. I was like, George, just be honest with you, I'm really struggling because we've got these cash flow and all these different elements that make up the complexities of business. Now I get the principles. I get it. And I've had to learn so that I get it.
But it's not why you got into the business.
No, it's not why I got into it.
It's not your preference, and it's not what energizes you.
And I don't know either if it is my calling being a deeper word, but my fingerprint that I can bring to this. George summed it up so well. He's like, so basically, you're needing the right people to look after wave 1 while you build wave 2, the future. I'm like, yes, that's it. And we've got some people in our team right now who literally, I talk about wave 2, the future, and they're like, yeah, it's cool, but it's kind of more exciting right now, the opportunity we have right now, if we improve margins, if we get this supply chain efficiency. And as they're talking, I'm like, I love what you're saying, but I couldn't get out of bed in the morning for that. I could get out of bed in the morning for the outcome of that, but I love how you're so passionate about that. And so right now it's about me, and they talk about founder's syndrome. And this is something for Jared Juz and I to be careful of. It's like this, you got this far because you've controlled a lot of elements. And you want to keep control, but if you don't let go of enough areas and let go of things and bring other people in, you end up essentially capping the growth.
Putting the brakes on.
Putting the brakes on. And I believe because of our cause and our mission, we cannot afford to let a person or a personality just cap the impact that this should have. So I've really got to drill down to what is my unique fingerprint and not try and add on oh, but I'd love to be that as well, and I'd love to be that, and I'd love to be everything to everyone. I can't be. So that's my journey right now, like our board and me, and we're just refining what I focus on, what we get other people focusing on. And I think if I can nail that, and actually if we as a team can nail that, we'll be here, you know, for decades to come. But it is a really pivotal time for us. It's like a growing up, maturing kind of thing, which we don't want to grow up too much in our mindset, but we do need to, you know, really lock down the sustainability. So the future, I believe, is big. Crazy dreams and ideas, but I also am acutely aware it doesn't exist unless we get the here and now.
And I guess there is a maturity in that without wanting to lose that youthful exuberance, that cheek, that a willingness to sort of push the envelope. But as the organisation gets bigger and you have to make lots of decisions around the stuff that isn't what makes you fling off the doona in the morning and come to work, how do you, at a personal level, with a partner, with a very young child, how do you manage your own energy? How do you know when you're about to hit the wall, and what's your refresh strategy? I always ask people, do you know when you're close to the edge, and do you have your own way of bringing yourself back again?
We are getting better at this. I think we've still got some further development, maybe everyone does, but here's a few things we've built in. So 1 day a week, usually on a weekend, depending if we've got conferences on, it might be a weekday, but most days it's 1 day on the weekend, we have a day off. And that may not sound like much. People are like, okay, you have a day off. But I mean off. So no emails. We can't use the T word. That's thank you. Right? We cannot talk about work. Now we're married and we work together. This is a day that's protected. And you know what? If that filters out, we end up having a whole weekend like that, which we did last weekend. We both were like, whoa, this feels like a holiday. You know, it did. But we switch off, and that's a weekly reset. So it's like not every few months, every week, we reset, no emails, no work, just 24 hours. And that helps us weekly.
Do you every now and then forget and one of you starts to go,
Yeah, it's a game. It was a game at the start and now we've got better at it. But then sometimes we're not good at it too. And so there's a bit of an accountability with both of us, because we'll notice the difference next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when we didn't do that properly. It's very apparent. So that's cool. So that's weekly. We took a month off in January. It's the first time we've done that in years. And everyone talks about it takes 2 weeks for your mind to switch off. And that's not good news, because most of our holidays are 1 to 2 weeks. So 4 weeks was a game changer. It felt almost irresponsible. Jared was away as well for 4 weeks, so we just switched off. Reckless, yeah, it was a little reckless. But we were at the edge of burnout. If the three of us didn't take a month off, sure, it would have been good to get them on different times. It was just a big year last year. Huge growth, huge challenges, all the goodness. The book went crazy, got pulled from every angle, speaking everywhere, kind of full on. We needed that. And so getting quicker at making those calls is important. But yeah, that's some of the things we do.
And what do you do when you're trying to save the world? You have to give yourself permission to look after you as well. Yeah. And
I think it took us a while to kind of click onto this. Our board members and stuff, so you guys are a really important asset. We'd never view that, because so we would make decisions to protect Thankyou way before protecting ourselves. And now it's this realization that actually if we crumble, it's not good. You know, like we are trying to build the organization to future-proof it, but at the same time, you don't want any leaders to fall in a heap. So,
and indispensability can actually be a very egoistic pastime, that it would crumble without us, so we'd better just keep on keeping on until we actually can't anymore, and then we're really in danger of falling over. Yeah, okay. Now I only have one more question for you, but I want to ask you, who is going to play you, and who would be your preference to play Jus in the movie?
In the movie.
I've got a couple of ideas here.
Tell me the ideas.
No, I'd like to hear from you first.
I've not thought about that. That's not something I've thought about.
Well, maybe it's got to be thought of on a day off if it isn't actually sort of the T word.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm thinking Alex Pettifer for you.
Okay.
Do you know him?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, because I think this is.
Gee, he's a good-looking lad. No, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, he'd have to shave down.
Yeah, he'd have to shave down, or maybe I should grow a beard and get blonde tips in my hair. I think Jared would be. I was going to say Ryan Gosling, but he wants to be someone who's more buff.
More buff. One of the Hemsworths?
But yeah, actually, yes. He would go. I would say he'd be Liam.
Liam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gee, Chris Hemsworth's good though, isn't he?
But we're talking Thor. Like, I met Jared before, just how buff is buff for our CFO here.
It's true. Well, he's very buff. I'm going to let him comment. But, I think
It might slip into the unbelievable realm a little bit.
it might.
Okay. And we cannot go past our own Margot Robbie.
Ah, shit.
Justine.
Well, that's a good call. We were at a restaurant in the Gold Coast just having some food, and she walked past. She was sitting there. She does amazing work. So
She does.
we've never thought about this, but thank you. That's
Okay.
an interesting thought.
All right. And let's finish on that word. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
Awesome.